Live your life within the moment, and don't go wait until the morning. You never know when it is over. All that I know is we'll get older. So let us dance this night away.
Welcome back to our podcast, Ready, Set, Squirrel, where ADHD, hilarity, and awareness collide. I'm your wife host, Bree.
And I'm your husband host, Brian. We come here to take you on a tour of our ADHD life, the good, the bad, and the extremely messy.
We are not experts, just two people living life with ADHD, spreading awareness, laughter, and reminding you that you are never alone.
Doom, 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 doom. All right, we made it.
Oh, golly, we made it.
Welcome back to the show, Bree.
I know, thank you.
You missed an episode last week.
I know. Was it even last week? Was it like 5,000 years ago?
It's been a minute.
Hashtag time blind.
So we just wanted to come on and give you guys a little update on what's going on with Ready, Set, Squirrel and our ADHD lives and whatnot. So, Bree, what did you want to start with?
I just wanted to get back on our recording schedule because things have been hopping over here. It's been wild and crazy kids, and this kind of fell by the wayside because I've been juggling a lot of balls up in the air, and so we're sorry about that, but we're back now.
I'm working mightily to not make the joke. So
what was the joke?
I mean, all these balls you're juggling.
Oh, well, David Bowie balls.
Sure.
But the ones that are in his hand.
Right.
This is not getting any better.
No, it's not.
All right.
So what's been keeping you busy?
Well, I finished writing a course, and I was kind of in the process of it during probably probably like the last episode that we did on here. And, ADHD and hyperfocus and all of that fun stuff. And then had quite a popping off of my Instagram account where I had several reels going viral, still actually going viral at the moment, and a real big influx in just inquiries and work that needed to all of a sudden be completed a lot faster than I anticipated because of the amount of traffic that my page was getting. So a lot of the recording and things that I've been doing have been focused on coursework and really just, I mean, you guys know how it is. Probably everybody listening to this has ADHD or knows somebody who does. And, the hyper-focus, brain switching tasks sort of thing is hard. And honestly, even just having time where both of us are able to sit down together and record for, an hour at a time is more challenging than it might seem when you live in the same house with somebody. But when you've got 3 kids, man, it's a circus.
Yeah, and pretty much the only time that one of the only times that we get to be able to both be available at the same time is when we're doing at bedtimes. And right now we're recording in during a nap time, so there's always a potential interruption there.
Yeah, you might get to see Emmy.
Maybe so. But yeah, and as far as I go, don't have a ton of new updates for myself, although I did want to mention a follow-up thing. If you were hearing my story before about going in and getting therapy and also getting meds and stuff like that, we had noticed a pretty striking difference in our experiences in that when Bree went to, and because we go to the same practice, we have different doctors in the practice, but it's all in the same umbrella, and we were curious about why Bree had to sign a form that basically was a controlled substances agreement sort of thing, where we had to agree to the way it would be stored and agree to have our pills counted if they asked for it and all kinds of stuff. Kind of, and the way we had described it is kind of makes you feel like a criminal or something like that. And again, I acknowledge that's kind of it is a controlled substance, and abuse of stimulants like Adderall, which we're both on, or the generic, whatever, that's a thing. So I get that, but it was kind of annoying. And the fact that I didn't have to do it was noteworthy. That being said, I've gone to my 2-month follow-up since the last time, and my doctor mentioned like, oh yeah, we got to get this on file for you too, and whatever. So now I am under the same agreement as she was.
Now we can get in trouble.
For what it's worth.
They can count our pills.
Yeah. So we're not selling them to college students, I promise.
Yeah, no, I need it.
Yeah,
College students aren't allowed to have
we're hanging on to it here.
Yeah, we're hanging on. Well, we're just hanging on in general by a thread.
Yeah,
so,
no kidding.
Yeah, nobody's allowed to have my Adderall. Sorry. Not sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what's been going on with us, and I don't know. What else do we want to talk about today?
You tell me. You were the one who said you wanted to record.
Yeah, no, it's just been a really kind of crazy month. I guess it's been about a month, right? But my my work is kind of exploding all of the sudden, and we're still not quite over that hump yet where things are coming in consistently, but it's been really, really cool to just see the hard work paying off and to see that light at the end of the tunnel, and just, because I've been in a state for the last 5 months or so where I have been grinding, and grinding hard, and, working 14 to 16 hour days consistently, almost every single day. Trying to get building the infrastructure of a business is a huge amount of work. And when you're doing stuff online, there's just so many tiny things that you don't even consider until you run into them, which is, I'm really actually thankful that I've got you, because my brain doesn't do well with multi-step, like lots of fine details. Like, I'm the big ideas person.
And you
I'm
always
the person
have been.
that can, sit down and I can write a course, and I can crank out a 200-page book in a few weeks and, do all of the research and all of the learning. But when it comes to things that are slow moving and take a lot of attention to detail, it's like, that's where I get hung up. And it's almost like my brain just turns off, and it becomes like this blocker for me where I've got this big, and actually this is a very common ADHD thing. It's like one task, but it requires so many tiny tasks or so many small steps. And I have a really, really hard time ordering those things.
Right.
And even when they are ordered for me, I have a hard time following the order, and I have a hard time prioritizing things. And so what happens is, that's where the skipping around and the completing partial tasks here and there and starting on something else comes into play. It's like, because this is too hard for me right now. And my brain is just not doing it.
Well, and task completion is definitely a factor. So, and this is like a thing that I think we run into kind of frequently, because you are the ideas person. So you'll come up with something and say like, oh, I want to be able to offer this. I'm like, okay, cool. So what does that look like? What do you need it to do? And you're like, I just told you I offer this. I'm like, okay, no, what systems and processes need to exist?
I don't know that part.
I was like, if someone has a credit card, or if someone has an email address, and you want to get this idea into their hands or into their inbox or into whatever, what do you want that process to look like? And sometimes it's very detailed, like, okay, so you want to be able to offer this. We need a PDF of that. We need to put that PDF on the website. It needs to be available for purchase. We need to figure out what link we want to point to that PDF. We want to figure out how much it costs. All these little tiny things. And that's what, and that's why I think we make a great team, because those are the things that I like figuring out, or that I, am able to focus on while you're doing the brain stuff. And, but it's, getting that information compiled together, going from idea to execution, is definitely a team effort on our part. So for those of you that are out there that are doing a lot of this stuff all by yourself, many, many kudos to you. And
I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
My brain straight up turns off.
Yeah.
It's like there is nothing that actually makes me feel less capable. And it's not even that I couldn't figure it out, but the amount of like overwhelm and stress that it causes me in the process is like my nervous system just immediately goes into chaos.
Yeah.
It's like, and all of a sudden my brain is just like, no, we can't do that.
Right.
And, you know, it's like I can do these things that are very elaborate and very complicated as long as they're in my wheelhouse of strengths. But anything that's not like that. And I'm fortunate that you're the kind of ADHDer that does have the high attention to detail and the, you know, almost to an annoying degree. Sometimes it causes, you know, arguments between us because I'm just like, that does not matter. It does not matter. Stop it. Stop hyper focusing. And, you know, it's like I'll hyper focus on, you know, my own stuff, but it's just not the same stuff that he does. And so sometimes it's just like, no, literally, like, it just needs to be done. Like, it does not matter.
Yeah. Well, and I will say, you know, I definitely acknowledge the difficulty or you know, the truism, I guess, is that done is better than perfect or something along those lines. And I can get hung up on teeny tiny details. However, I think that, you know, in my defense, I think that some of those attention to detail kind of things really do help us to present as though we know what we're doing and, you know, to present a professional kind of result and product and things like that. Although I will say for reels and, you know, when you're doing stuff like reels and, you know, content like that, daily stuff, especially stories, even more so lean towards just get it out. Don't make it perfect, because if something takes you, if it takes you 3 or 4 hours to get a reel out, you're not going to start doing that every day. And it's just too much on you. Yeah.
Well, and when you're entrepreneuring, is that a word? I don't know.
I don't know. It is now.
There are so many balls to juggle that don't shake your head at me. I'm funny. You know what, though? Actually, sidetrack rabbit hole. So I had a reel that went viral. It was a meme that I made. And it's actually a great story about why it went viral, because I was, I make memes on my page. It's part of my brand. It's part of how my brain works. And, it's like I've started doing them on Saturdays. I call them Dopamine Saturday.
Oh, very nice.
I know. It's I'm so clever. But, and it's just funny little things that make me think of other things that are ADHD related and, whatever. And so I made one that I literally created it because it reminded me of me and Brian. And so I was like, oh my gosh, and what it was, probably everybody who's listening to this has seen it, because apparently, 13 million people in the world have now seen it. So odds are you're one of them, but it was
especially if you're listening to the podcast.
Yeah. The cat and the info dumper goat. And it was titled Two Neurodivergents Having a Conversation. So you've got the info dumper, and then you've got the one with the auditory processing disorder or delay. And I made it and showed Brian, and he gave me a little half-hearted chuckle. I was like, yeah, that's funny. And I was like, well, that was nearly a strong enough reaction. I'm putting it on my page. Because I actually almost didn't even put it on my page, because I was just like, well, clearly it wasn't even that funny. Like, I guess I'm not that funny. I don't know. And man, did it pop off, and it went hard and heavy, and it's still like I'm literally looking at my feed right now, and it's like every few minutes it's getting shared, and here we are at over 13 million plays on that reel, and people are just and that was really what kicked off my page, because I had one viral reel before that, which was my ADHD symptoms another one that I didn't really put a whole lot of time or effort into.
I'm going to trigger you.
Oh gosh. Yeah. So that's literally what my like entire stories feed sounds like now. Because I also get notified every time somebody shares one of my things or one of my reels to their stories. So when you have a reel go viral, you know, you've got 50 some odd.
Every notification you
Every
get
notification
triggers that
like
video
you
to start
click
playing.
it, and I try to go through and heart them and, you know, engage with the people who are sharing my content. Like, I feel like it's good form, even though not all of them follow me and not all of them are, you know, care or even notice. But, you know, I click through and give them a little heart on it. And, you know, sometimes if they have a really clever little caption that they've added on their own, I'll, you know, interact and laugh with them or whatever. But man, that's what my entire feed sounded like for like a solid 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh my gosh, my eye's going to start twitching. And then I had the second one go viral, which was another goat related one. And so, you know, you have the blabbering goat and then I had the laughing goat. So then it was like almost alternating. So it was like the blabbing goat and then the laughing goat and then the blabbing goat and then the laughing goat. And now I've got like 2 or 3 other ones that are in the process of, you know, hitting viral, where I'm getting notifications like literally every second or more, you know, that like multiple are coming in. And my page kind of went from, I feel like I was hanging around 1,200 followers for, you know, a bit there. You know, I broke that 1,000 point and then it kind of stagnated for a couple of weeks. And then I deleted like a couple hundred bots that came in from that first viral reel. And then, you know, kind of stagnated after that for another week or two. And then like I had, you know, I don't know even really what picked it up, because that reel was on there for about a week before it really started popping off. But I guess I just got, you know, enough activity and enough like little shares here and there. And then now what's happening is like my page has grown from 1,300 followers to, you know,
Over 6,000 at this
over
point.
6,000, and like with 200 people new every single day that are coming in right now. And you know, and sometimes when a reel calms down, you know, it'll drop down to 50 to 100 people a day, but then, you know, maybe something else will pick up. And but it's been really cool to like connect with some of the other people, like to kind of be a little bit more, I guess, on the radar in a sense, you know, without sounding like, I don't mean that to sound arrogant or whatever, but just to have had that level of exposure, you know, to where people even know that you exist. You know, it's like, because you have your own little circle and it's quiet and it's quaint and it's calm and it's, you know, kind of the same few dozen people interacting with you, and you have that time to kind of form relationships. But now that I've had so many reels that have been going viral, I've had some of the bigger accounts, like both in the ADHD advocacy world and honestly even in like, you know, a little bit going into like the Hollywood realm of
The meme world.
the meme world. You know, some of those big giant meme sharing accounts are following me, so, you know, maybe I'll get featured on one of those. I don't know. But, you know, I had a co-host from Dancing with the Stars follows me now. There's a big or a Broadway actor / director who's an ADHDer himself, who I've connected with, and like he reached out to me and told me how much he loved my content. I'm like, what a cool thing. Like, this person who's got like hundreds of thousands of people that follow his account and like subscribe to his stuff, and, you know, he's got, and like he likes what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
I had a woman last night reach out to me, because I do still try. I mean, it's gotten to the point now where I'm pulled in so many directions that some of my practices have gone a little bit by the wayside, like being able to greet every single new follower individually. It's like sometimes, you know, I try to go through and do the ones that I can, or, you know, filter through the ones that seem like they might have an interest in, you know, a related field or, you know, something in the, you know, that might be interesting to collab with or whatever. But so when I've got a few minutes of time in the evenings or whatever, when I'm not working on something else, I'll try to go in there and say hi to some people. And I had this girl last night who was so sweet, and she said, gosh, it's so cool that you reached out. She was like, I have OCD, and my husband is a very severe ADHDer. And she said that my content has actually been one of the few ways that they've been able to connect recently. And I was like, what a cool thing that
explanatory
is.
Like, and this was, I think, especially even early on as you were kind of coming to terms with the fact that you know, ADHD or that anxiety and depression is not necessarily your only and perpetual diagnosis, but like, hey, there might be something else going on there. And also even before that, because I knew I had ADHD, and trying to use those things to kind of show like, hey, this is kind of what it's like. This is what's happening in my brain. This is just, you know, just a way to help people understand you. So
yeah,
it's cool that
and just kind of being, you know, one of those things where it's like something that they're able to like watch and consume and laugh at together, and, you know, kind of just bond and understand each other better. And, you know, I had another lady who I happened to run across. For anybody who follows me on Facebook, I'm sorry, because I really, part of the ADHD tunnel vision is that I really only have the capacity to focus on one platform well.
Sure.
So everything on Facebook is just cross-posted. Same thing with TikTok. They are kind of my, I was going to say redheaded stepchildren, but I do have a redhead myself. So maybe that's not the kindest terminology, but they kind of get ignored a little bit. And that's just because, you know, the main bulk of my community has always been on Instagram. The others have just been cross-posting platforms. And I really felt like when I started that I only had the ability to truly learn and do one really well. And, you know, that's not to say that I won't expand and like try to do that later, but the same stuff that performs well on Instagram doesn't always perform well on Facebook, and doesn't always perform well on TikTok. Actually, really doesn't perform well on TikTok. TikTok is a totally different beast entirely, and I just don't have the time to make content for both styles and different types of audiences.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're hanging out over on Facebook, come find me on Instagram, because I hang out there a lot, and that's where I interact and engage. But back to having, you know, been on my desktop at the time and been clicking through Meta and like scheduling some stuff, I just happened to notice like there was one particular person who was commenting on a bunch of things. Like I kept just seeing her name pop up out of nowhere. And I'd never seen her. I wasn't familiar with her, and it's very uncommon for a whole lot of activity to happen on my Facebook page. So I, you know, just kind of glanced at it, and she was I think almost 70 years old woman, 65 or 70, I think she said. And she said that I was the first exposure that she'd ever had to somebody talking about this stuff, and that it's the first time that she's kind of realizing, because I guess her sister's a nurse, and she said, my sister told me that I had ADHD, but seeing your content is the first time that I have felt not alone in this. And, you know, to be, you know, entering that phase of your life and been battling these things for so long and having no idea and having nobody to connect with about it, like I can't imagine how lonely. And so, you know, it's just, I guess all of that to say that, you know, once you start getting to that point where you are having a little bit more exposure, like it is it really does bring meaning to what you're doing beyond just like making silly content, because sometimes it's really easy to look at it through that lens of like, you know, because you get the trolls who, you know, I had somebody the other day told me that I was gross and just looking for clout. You know, these people talking about ADHD just to get clout and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you know, there's people who have unkind things to say, and those don't really bother me anymore because I have so many other people reach out and are just like, thank you for this, because I finally feel seen and I finally feel heard and I finally don't feel broken and alone, and like that makes every single bit of it worth it. You know, that's why I go through the effort to post these silly videos every day that, you know, some people roll their eyes at, or, you know, I can hear conversations in my head, you know, that you kind of hear the I guess the undertone of like
skepticism,
you know, from people in the family and from, you know, people who know you, just like, oh, well, how's that working for you? Mm-hmm. And if you hear a little voice in the background here, my baby woke up from her nap, so you'll hear some whining here. She's sitting on my lap now. For anybody online, you can see that grouchy little face,
little grumper face.
And but at the same time, it's like whenever you have those moments where it's like, man, I'm so tired and I don't feel like making content today, it's like there's somebody else who messages you and just is like, thank you so much for this. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it gives you that little boost of motivation of like, you know, it feels stupid and silly to me sometimes, but like to other people, it means something. And like, that's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting to see how things have changed, or just what kind of different opportunities you're having with an increased audience. And the cool thing is it's like exponential, because, you know, all it takes is, you know, because every single account that follows you or sees your stuff is, if they share something, they're going to share it to more than one person. Especially if you do it on like the public side, of course. So the growth is a snowball effect, and it's kind of cool to just see how that's happening and how it's giving you new chances to connect with people. I mean, you know,
yeah, and have, you know, it's really neat just to the networking aspect of it too, of like, once you kind of once people realize what you're doing and like who you are and give you more than a 2-second glance, you know, it opens up other opportunities. Yeah. I've had several people reach out to me about being interviewed on their podcasts. I have other people, I mean, I have a music artist with a huge following who's reaching out to me to, and actually, I don't know, we might be able to get him up on the podcast. I was chatting with him about that earlier, but
yeah, actually,
to do like a review of his album that he made for, you know, in honor of his son who is nonverbal autistic. And, you know, that, I don't know, it's just so cool to be part of a community that means something, mm-hmm. you know, and to see all of these really cool people doing really cool things, and to even have those people interested in like talking to me about what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I guess, you know, there's part of that like self-worth thing, or that self-image, or that imposter syndrome that comes up, especially with ADHD. It's like, you know, but when it comes down to it, like, I'm good at what I do, mm-hmm. you know, and I'm good at connecting with people, and I'm good at teaching people things. And like, literally what I'm teaching neurodivergent business owners right now to do is to use Instagram to do exactly what I'm doing. Yeah. To make money, to gain exposure, to gain audience. And like, I'm living proof that what I'm doing is working. Yeah. And to...
Well, that's good, because obviously if, you know, you have a hard time making people listen to what you have to say if the things that you're attempting to share with them are not working for yourself. So, and that doesn't always hold true 100% of the time. Anybody can hit a slump or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's
well,
gratifying to see that the work you've put into figuring it out is working for you.
Well, yeah. And I think that so much of that just comes back to as well, like the factor of authenticity, of, literally the thing that I'm preaching at my audience and preaching at the people that I'm working with day in and day out. Like, I'm getting on phone calls with these women who, are reaching out to me because they're like, I don't know how to do what you're doing. And I'm like, well, that's okay. You don't have to do what I'm doing.
Right.
You have to be you. And
that's the strongest
I'm worried
message that
about,
I hear you telling people over and over is, again, that authenticity. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. And I know because Brian's a stalker and listens to all of my phone calls with my clients to kind of keep up to date on everything. It's always trippy when I'm down here by myself having a conversation and then he'll start referencing a conversation that I had and I'm like, why do you know that? That's very unsettling. And then it's like, oh yeah, you listened to the recording. He's like, I just listened to him like podcasts. I'm like, well, all right, whatever.
Yeah, and I will say that hearing and this is not news to you, but just for the pod, hearing Bree doing the one-on-one chats with folks is really exciting to me because that's really where she and whoever she's talking to, they get to just really just be themselves and just talk about these ideas and hype each other up and like really get into the ideas of like, hey, we can do this and we can, operate in a way that is genuine to our personalities, and that's so empowering, and it's fun to hear that happening.
Well, and I think that people get so caught up, and this is what I try to help people remember, is that when you're niching and when you're working an online job, like if being authentic didn't work, first of all, I would know that pretty fast because I know for a fact that I'm not for everybody. Not everybody has my sense of humor. Not everybody appreciates my style of comedy and, whatever it is. But the thing is that, like, if we were only working from a pool of 100,000 people, there might be an element of having to appeal to everybody.
Yeah.
But the reality is like, especially on social media, for
when you're doing
Instagram,
the social media game,
there's 2 billion active users on that platform.
Is that daily actives or weekly actives?
No, monthly actives. And so what I'm constantly preaching at people is like, do you think that there are not 100,000 people on that platform who are going to resonate with exactly what you're doing?
Yeah.
And if you can be yourself, if you can present authentically, you are going to build trust with people much faster. Mm-hmm. You're not going to burn out. You're going to enjoy what you're doing. You're going to be happy. You're not going to feel like an imposter as much, because we already struggle with that. ADHDers in general have terrible, rejection sensitivity and imposter syndrome. And I know that, there is an element of RSD that comes along with showing yourself online. It's like it becomes a little bit more personal when you're being authentic, but
I have to go to the bus stop.
This is a perfect example of why we can't record. We've got one sitting here on my lap, another one busting up in the room, but welcome to our circus. But it's very cool to see that what we're doing seems to be making an impact. It seems to be picking up momentum, and now it's just kind of the hard work and the footwork of making it all come together seamlessly and to get everything going. So
yeah. All right. So I have to run to the bus stop. So let's take a break on the pod here. We're going to go feed the squirrels, and we'll be back with some probably closing-ish thoughts, maybe just a little bit more after the break. All right, folks, just going to do a quick break here. This is where I'll tell you how to connect with us and where to follow and all that sort of thing. So obviously, as always, if you're not following Bree on Instagram yet, you totally should be. Go to @ReadySetSquirrel. Like she said before, she's on other platforms like Facebook and TikTok as well. Just search the same thing. But Instagram is really where most of the interacting happens. If you want to make any comments on the show or reach out to us at all, you can shoot us an email, hello@ReadySetSquirrel.com, or Bree or Brian that'll come to us individually. If you wanted to reach out to me about technical stuff, or Bree about anything else, or me about anything else, that's an option for you. Let's see what else. Oh, so we're talking about these meetings that Bree's having with folks. If you want to be one of those folks and you want to have some sit down time with Bree, that's something that she offers totally free. And all you got to do is go to readysetsquirrel.com/meet to hop on her schedule there. Just pick an available time, and it'll get us all set up so you guys can have a good chat. If you want to be a guest on the show, we are actively seeking and looking for other folks in the ADHD neurodivergent kind of world to be guests on the podcast. So go to readysetsquirrel.com/podcast-guest. Podcast-guest. That's hard to say a little bit, but it's easy to type, and you can fill out a little form there, tell us about yourself, and we'll get you scheduled for a call, hopefully. That would be cool. As always, the obligatory, please, please, please subscribe, like, and leave a review of this podcast on your podcast platform of choice, especially if it happens to be Apple Podcasts for some reason. That's the one that people really, really want to push. It's one of the bigger platforms, but we are on Spotify as well, and pretty much any other player you could want. So anywhere you can leave a review for us, we would really, really, really appreciate it. Obviously, the podcast right now is just in its infancy when it comes to listenership, so every single view, every single listen is really cool for us. So we appreciate you listening, and we hope you like what you hear, and if you want to hear more, tell folks about it. Let's see. I think that's probably going to wrap it up for now, so let's get back to the conversation. And we're back. Sorry for the quick exit. I looked at my watch as Bree was talking, and as our oldest child was coming down to say hi, actually, that's what triggered me, because I know that shortly after she comes home from school on the bus, then I need to head out to go get the middle child. And so she came down, and I was like, scramble. So I'm not even entirely sure what we were saying before the break. Hopefully it sounded coherent. Hopefully with the magic of editing, that will have been the case. But now that we're back after the break, I wanted to just kind of continue chatting a little bit about the fact that with your growth, you're getting some more connections and more calls. You're having folks visit the readysetsquirrel.com/book address to schedule those free calls with you. And of course, any of you listening or watching can do the same. But what are some of the things that you're hearing on these calls that are kind of consistent with what folks out there might be thinking on their own end?
One of the more consistent things that I'm running into is really just the people that are reaching out to me because of the type of content that I'm creating. Kind of that whole, like, how are you making what you're making, and doing the business thing while doing that. And again, it's because there is a place for everybody. And I make the content that I make because it's what makes me happy. Mm-hmm. It's what allows me to not burn out. And because if I were trying to make educational talking videos every single day, that's not my strength. My strength is really in
connecting with people,
and like the one-on-one sort of aspect when I'm educating, and even the course videos that I'm working on. And I get hung up on that because it's hard to sit here and talk to yourself, and to kind of mentally go through the things that people might be asking, right. Or, it's much more natural, I think, to engage. And obviously some of that stuff will come with time, and I'm getting better at it, but it's my particular brand of spicy brain works best in comedy, in comic relief, in kind of making those back end connections. And I think it's why I'm really good at making memes. It's like, because one thing, one thought, that entertains me, my brain can make 7 more connections and kind of have that little inside joke with my niche,
Right.
that their brains are also making those 7 extra connections to. And that was actually one of my memes that resonated so deeply and went viral. It was, the laughing goats of, 2 neurodivergent besties who have made 7 additional connections and nobody else is laughing at you.
Yeah.
It's like, we're laughing because we get it. We understand. And, that's why we're so good at predicting the endings of movies. You are notorious for that. I can do it, but I am just more of an internal processor.
Yeah.
You're an external processor, so you're the one that
I'm like, oh, I know,
ruins the movies.
This guy's gonna come, whatever. Although I will say, about a third of the time I'm wrong, but it's fun to, I guess for me, and yes, I am a very external processor, so that has an impact on it too. So if the idea comes into my mind, I have to verbalize it. But it is fun to just consume media that way and just to think of the different directions things could go. And so even if it doesn't end up that, oh, that guy turned out to be the one who was responsible for everything, or whatever, or, oh, I know what they're going to do. They're going to go this direction with this character. Even just thinking about that is fun. And so, yeah, it comes out of my face.
But, and my brain does that too, just in a different way. And so, and that's part of the power of picking your niche as well. Like I picked my niche, partially because I got into the advocacy and just talking about my experience. So that was where kind of my whole platform was built. But it being the area and the people who most resonate with me and my style of humor and my personality, and those are the people who get me. So those are the people who want to work with me. Yeah. And there's also such a comfort in, I think, on both ends, because when you're going into, like, we don't like talking on the phone. I don't know about you. I think you're your own special brand of ADHD spicy.
I don't prefer it. I mean, our time working for credit card collections, where our entire job for 8 to 10 hours a day was talking on the phone, my comfort level is much higher than it would have been without that. But it's still not my favorite.
But I think just even being aware and like building my business in a way that is accessible for people who have our particular hangups it allows people to feel more comfortable, and it allows people to feel like I'm more approachable. Like, if somebody doesn't want to get on a phone call with me, that's fine. I'll sit and chat with them in the DMs. Like, I get that. I get the phone anxiety, but I also have found that people have a lot less of an issue getting on the phone with me. Number one, because I don't try to do that cliche, hey girl, DM, try to sell them in something, try to bait them into something, or try to high pressure sell somebody once they're on. Like, I straight up tell people, even when they're getting on the phone with me, I'm not going to try to sell to you. Yeah. I'm going to tell you what I do. I'm going to tell you how I can help you. I'm going to end up coaching you. That's just, because that's all part of this conversation.
Right.
But when you feel comfortable and when you feel like you're in a place to make that decision, I'm going to let you come back to me.
Yeah.
Because
they know how to get a hold of you.
That is a power that you need to have in your own hands, and to feel that pressure and to feel that, because sometimes we just need time to sit with something too. Yeah. Decision making is hard for us. Demand avoidance aspect, it's part of my brand that, like,
don't tell me what to do.
I joke on, many of my posts, unless I'm limited with, because I've written too much and can't, do my normal sign off. Like, if you vibe, like, come hang out with us. Yeah. Not follow this for, it's just a different way of approaching people in a way that is more, are less of a turnoff, and for people who are like us, and they know when they're getting on the phone with me because I am myself in my stories, and I am myself in my videos, and I'm goofy and I'm silly, and I'm, you know, DMing with them, and I'm saying hi. Like they don't have to be afraid to get onto the phone with me.
Yeah.
They don't have to like have that anxiety. It's like these people who are getting on the phone are people who hate being on the phone, and like they're so excited to sit and chat with me. And we will often go over our time, and I always build that in because, you know, we info dump on each other, and we, you know, we get to talking. And even if it's somebody who doesn't end up working with me, like these are our friends that I have now, and these are, you know, potential collaboration partners, and these are, you know, more networking opportunities, and these are people who are going to refer other people to me, and I can refer other people to them. And it's just part of building this community of like, yeah, I will absolutely share content and promote people that I know in the same business who I like what they're doing, who are even like direct competitors with me, because I know it, you know, in a business format, because I know that not a single other person who I'm sharing is actually my competitor, because somebody who wants to work with me for me is not going to not work with me because this other person does the same thing. But maybe somebody doesn't resonate as much with me and really resonates with what that person is doing. And so if that's the case, fantastic. I want us all to succeed.
Well, and in this kind of space and with this kind of model, when it's about showing up exactly as who you are, when you're doing that, there is no such thing as direct competition, because there is no one else who is exactly like you.
But we better hop off here, because I got content that I got to make in 20 minutes now.
Okay.
Because we've overrun.
ReadySetSquirrel.com is where you can find links to how to get in touch with us, if you want to be a guest on the podcast, if you want to shoot us an email, if you want to connect with Bree directly, you know, all of these things. Obviously, you heard that in the break. So I think we're gonna hop off of here. We're already losing Bree. She's already in her phone. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just behind on
all right.
everything. We talked too long.
Yeah, I'm trying to take us through the outro.
All right. Bye.
So, all right, we love you.
Sorry, ADHD.
Bye.